UCLA's list of outgoing players and outgoing coaches grows even longer as the transfer portal season prepares to begin.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever it's your podcast, and it's available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, download. Thanks for your support. Welcome back, everydayers. I hope you're in the midst of a happy holiday season and had a Merry Christmas. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. What we're talking about today, some UCLA coaches have new homes, former UCLA coaches that is, and the growing list of UCLA transfers adds. So let's talk about that. UCLA, one of the guys who I hadn't talked about hitting the transfer portal was backup quarterback Luke Duncan, which probably makes a lot of sense. A guy who has some promise, needs an opportunity to play, is not going to get that opportunity with Nico Imaliava announcing his return and intention to stay with UCLA. So this is a bit of older news, but Luke Duncan leaving is interesting. The two newer transfers today, both broken by On3 with their transfer portal tracker and ESPN. I believe Pete Thamel was reporting on it. You have Alonza Barnett III, the JMU quarterback, is hitting the transfer portal. All right, that's a big one to take note. And UCLA is losing Keanu Williams. So let's start with Keanu Williams. First, the former Oregon transfer to UCLA was a part of a big effort by Chip Kelly to build the D-line, to build the defense. And for UCLA, I feel like they got quite a bit, as much as they could, out of Keanu Williams. Williams was a part of UCLA in 2023 when UCLA had one of their best defenses ever. You had a solid D-line. You had a great linebacking core. In 2023, Keanu Williams, 13 games played, 10 starts, had 14 tackles, half a sack, a fumble recovery, multiple tackles over the course of 5 games, and had 4 tackles in a dominant defensive effort when UCLA was clamping down Utah, albeit in a losing effort. Then got hurt early in 2024, is going to utilize what I believe would be a medical redshirt after his 2025 season started 11 years in his redshirt senior year, and had 17 solo tackles, 39 tackles, and had a tackle in every game this year. Had 62 defensive snaps against Utah. So with UCLA seeing a new defensive coordinator, trying to overhaul the D-line, and with Williams having that potential extra year of eligibility because he redshirted early in his Oregon career, is looking at the medical redshirt in 2024 after playing only 2 games and missing with an injury, I'm thinking, okay, that might have been somebody I would like to keep. Obviously, I'm not the most intelligent when it comes to dissecting, all right, is this the best defensive tackle UCLA could have? But he's a super senior. He's been around a long time. And I think UCLA had a problem on the edges, mostly when it came to rushing the passer. I would think the Bruins would love to have a standout transfer who's been in the program now 3 years looking for a fourth, right? He'd be a 4-year Bruin if he stayed in 2026. But I'm not sure if that's a Bob Chesney and staff decision, if that's a Keanu Williams decision to go out, get either a bigger payday, go somewhere else, look for a new opportunity, or just keep his options open. So he announced his intention to transfer. This is newer. I saw it first reported by On3, and we'll see if that leads to him. Because remember, UCLA last time they had an interior defensive lineman hit the portal. Jay Tuia was looking for his options, flirted with Texas before eventually coming back to UCLA, which didn't necessarily lead to team success for him, but it kept him a part of a UCLA defense and stayed closer to home while he eventually went to the Cowboys in the 7th round of the NFL draft, if I'm not mistaken. So Williams leaves, and that's another guy the Bruins will have to replace. So you mix in Luke Duncan, so you have to build the quarterback depth, which the Bruins have a signing of DJ Bordeaux. They have Nico coming back. Madden is still in the foray, so the quarterback room is somewhat set right now for UCLA, and the D-line, not sure it takes a hit, but it is something to take note of. The growing list of transfers looks like this. You have Luke Duncan, Salem Abdul-Wahab, Jameer Benjamin, Croy Stewart. You have LaRue Zamorano III, Scooter Jackson, Andre Jordan Jr., Cole Martin, a bunch of DBs. You mix in Benjamin Perry, Jaden Marshall, and then the big skill position guy offensively that's leaving is Rico Flores Jr. So UCLA, that's their list, which may or may not be missing a guy or two. It's a big list or growing list, some of which UCLA we're losing some backups, and some of which is because a coach or two is leaving. Now, UCLA is going to have a lot of coaching turnover. Some of the guys that have decided to leave or, been booted with the new staff coming in. You have Scott White, the former linebackers coach. Well, according to Pete Thamel of ESPN, Scott White has a new home and he's going to San Diego State. All right. So San Diego State, that's Sean Lewis. Sean Lewis was deep in the running for the UCLA job. So I wonder if Sean Lewis, excuse me, would have been hired at UCLA if Scott White would have been a part of that new staff with the West Coast connections. But right now, Scott White is moving on to San Diego State. The other big coaching news for UCLA is the fact that Andy Kwon is going to Memphis. So Kwon went to Arkansas State, went to UCLA for a year, had to deal with a beleaguered offensive line, one that was already in place pretty much before he got there. But with the overhaul of a staff as a whole, he goes to Memphis. So one guy moves to a group of five, the other one moves to a West Coast group of five. Between all those things, UCLA is starting to see their coaches find new jobs, find new opportunities. But the one name that hasn't popped up as of yet is Jerry Neuheisel. What we know is that Jerry's not coming back to UCLA this year. What I want for Jerry is an offensive coordinating position so he gets those reps, gets that opportunity elsewhere before what I would believe and what I think everybody believes, his heart coming back to UCLA in some future capacity in a bigger role than interim play calling offensive coordinator. All right. I want him to be the offensive coordinator, be the head coach, be the man, but I don't think he's ready in that role right now. So we haven't seen what Jerry would go if there's any potential opportunities. I know there was some flirtation with Rick Neuheisel at Washington State, which means that you'd bring Jerry in the fold. I know that Jerry was brought in potentially to UConn with Jim Moore, and he said, no, I'm going to stay at UCLA. And with Jim Moore going to Colorado State, I wonder if that's something that would lead to a connection there, keeping him close on the Western front while also getting an opportunity to flourish with the guy he was a part of he was around for in Jim Moore. Now, building the UCLA staff, they're bringing a whole lot of James Madison guys. So seeing the UCLA guys go, it'll be hard for some, like a Jerry Neuheisel, and I hope he gets the best. But the other guys, it was just pretty expected that they would have a new opportunity somewhere else, all right? I wonder if and where Tino Sunseri would land, right? It was his first opportunity as a true play caller. Remove the co-offensive coordinator title, give him the reins at UCLA, and it didn't exactly work out leading up to that Penn State game, which allowed Jerry to burst on the scene. But I'll be interested to see where Jerry Neuheisel falls, right? Is he going to get a big opportunity? Does he have to go to the FCS level? Is he going to get a head coaching gig at a young age? And where does Tino go? The initial offensive coordinator for UCLA in the 2025 season. Is he going to go somewhere else and get a new offensive coordinating spot? Would he go back to Indiana as a future staff and work his way back up? Those are things I don't exactly know, but I wonder where these guys are going to fall. Like, did UCLA have pretty solid coaches in some respects, but just the whole organization, if you will, the program came crumbling down because the top was bad and the talent just wasn't there? Or was it every coach was struggling and UCLA just needed a whole new culture, and that's what Bob Chesney is going to bring? Because one, that is definitely true. Bob Chesney has changed things from places that don't win and turned them into winners, and took James Madison and kept them a contender. Kept them a contender as they became playoff eligible in their first couple of years, winning a bowl and getting to the CFP in just year two under Bob Chesney. So those are all interesting things to wonder. Now, the Alonza Barnett III interesting battle. I highly, highly, highly doubt that there is any connection between Alonza Barnett III, the Sun Belt Player of the Year in the conference, James Madison starting quarterback for a playoff team, right? I do not think he will go to UCLA. That would make no sense if Nico is to return, as that's already been announced. All right, now, could there be something else? Here's something to look out for. What's already been a precedent for Bob Chesney was he had his starting quarterback, dual threat QB, Matthew Sluka at Holy Cross. Sluka made headlines by going to UNLV, trying to get the big bucks. 4 games in, that NIL opportunity wasn't there. He redshirted and finished out his college career with Chesney at James Madison in a lesser role behind Barnett. And while you had that 2 QB system for a little bit early at James Madison, Sluka kind of finished his college career on a playoff team at the FBS level, but for a lesser role. All right. Now, is that something I expect Barnett to come do and challenge Nico for the position and see, hey, is this what you want to do? Well, with no spring portal, that really handcuffs your opportunities if Barnett wants to play. And if he's either looking for a bigger paycheck, keeping his options open as he assesses Billy Napier moving to James Madison, while also seeing what Bob Chesney thinks as he builds his team, I would say it's unlikely to have Barnett move to UCLA, but it wouldn't be the first QB to have left Chesney as he went to a new job and then follow him back, even for a lesser role, for a winning team and a championship culture. So that's something to look out for. I don't think there will be any connection between Barnett and UCLA, but it has happened, and Chesney's led it to be successful, and it doesn't look like there was any locker room divide because of it. All right. So we'll see how that builds out. When there's more news when it comes to coaches, when there's more news building this team and roster, we'll talk about it. But for now, we're all waiting for the potential of James Madison players to keep entering or announcing their intention to go to the portal and eventually commit to UCLA. A wave of those for all across the country will be around January 2nd. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place those bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is the best, though, when the game starts to shift. The receiver gets hot, defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com so you can place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. There's nothing like this crazy, rabid college football season or even the college basketball season because there's tailgates, packed stadiums, packed arenas, and in the middle of it all, there's the energy, the bands, the memories, and the moments you remember forever. But actually getting tickets, that part used to be frustrating with the long queues, logins, and prices jumping at checkout. That's why Gametime gives advantage and the advantage back to fans, you, me, and it's the easiest way to unlock amazing college football tickets and experiences in just a few taps. Opening up the Gametime app, you can say, oh, what's coming up on games in your local area? And you're like, wait, choose UCLA. And you can see what comes up and where the great seats are, what the view is from that seat, and you know that there's no fees. You click on the fees and you're like, oh, there's no extra fees. You know what you pay, clip, tap, ticket, and all of a sudden you're doing it well. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, Locked On College for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. All right, that's going to do it for us here on this shortened holiday edition of Locked On UCLA. We'll talk UCLA baseball, sticking at Jackie Robinson in their 2026 schedule. I will detail the growth for Gabriela Jaquez from one year to the next and how that kind of mimics how her brother's journey went at UCLA as well. And we'll talk more things UCLA portal, men's basketball, women's basketball throughout the weekend and into the new year. Hands up, Bruins fans. 8 clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA, fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.